The 52nd floor penthouse. Golden light on a titanium wheelchair. The billionaire reached for water. The glass slipped, shattered on marble. The janitor in faded blue uniform bent down, picked up the pieces. She snapped. "I don't need your pity." He looked straight at her. "I'm not pitying you. I'm going to help you walk again." She laughed. Tears streamed down. Pain, anger, disbelief. "I've lost all feeling from the waist down." "Who do you think you are?" His voice cut through the silence. "The last person on earth who will give up on you." Her name was Lin Tra, 32 years old, CEO of a tech empire, Forbes 30 under 30. She'd once stood on stages in front of thousands. 8 months ago, someone sabotaged her car brakes. The crash fractured her spine, paralyzed from the waist down. The doctors gave her a 10% chance of ever walking again. Since then, she'd lost control of her company. Board members whispered about replacing her. Friends stopped calling. Everyone looked at her with the same expression. Pity. She hated pity more than the wheelchair. The janitor's name was Min, 38 years old, single father to a 7-year-old boy named Kenny. Nobody in the building knew his story. Nobody asked. What they didn't know, Min used to be a physical rehabilitation specialist in the military. He'd helped soldiers walk again after devastating injuries. But when his wife died and Kenny was diagnosed with a heart condition, Min quit. He became a janitor for one reason: flexible hours to care for his son. The building manager treated him like he was invisible. "Janitors clean and stay quiet. That's the job." The security guards smirked whenever Min walked by. "Don't go near the penthouse. The owner is difficult." Min just smiled, never argued. He'd learned that people see the uniform, not the person inside it. One morning, the penthouse water system burst, flooded the entire floor. Every maintenance technician was busy on other calls, so they sent Min. "Just mop up the mess," the manager said. Min took the service elevator to the 52nd floor, knocked on the door. No answer. He used his master key. The penthouse was massive, modern, cold, like a museum, not a home. Lin Truss sat by the window in her wheelchair. She didn't turn around. "Leave the mop and go." Min didn't respond. He started cleaning the flooded hallway. Water had seeped under expensive furniture. He worked carefully, methodically. She wheeled around, saw him for the first time. "They sent the lowest person in this building to clean my floor?" Min paused, looked up. His voice was calm. "Low or high, water still needs mopping." Something about the way he said it made her pause. No defensiveness, no shame, just fact. She studied him longer than she meant to. Most people avoided eye contact with her now. But this janitor looked at her like she was just another person. Not a tragedy, not a headline, just a woman in a wheelchair. It unsettled her. "What's your name?" she asked. "Min." "Well, Min, finish quickly and leave." He nodded, went back to work. As he was leaving, he noticed something: a physical therapy schedule on her desk. Only 3 sessions marked. All from months ago, then nothing. He saw the medical notes. Patient uncooperative, depression progressing. He saw the wheelchair, top of the line, but the wheels were dusty. She barely moved, and he saw her hands, trembling as she tried to reach for a book on the shelf. Min understood everything in that moment. She wasn't broken because of her spine. She was broken because she'd given up. Before he left, he turned back. "Miss Tra." "What?" "You're not as hopeless as you think you are." Her face went cold. "If the best doctors in the country couldn't help me, what would a janitor know?" Min bowed his head slightly. "I apologize. I overstepped." He walked out. But that night, he couldn't stop thinking about her, about the trembling hands, the dusty wheels, the abandoned therapy schedule. He'd seen this before, in soldiers who survived but stopped fighting. The next morning, he heard crying from the penthouse. The wheelchair had gotten stuck in the doorway. None of the staff wanted to help. They said she was too difficult. Min went up. He didn't say a word, just quietly freed the wheel, steadied the chair. She didn't thank him, just looked away, embarrassed. But Min had already decided he was going to help her, whether she wanted it or not. Min started coming during lunch breaks, told the manager he was checking for water damage. Nobody questioned a janitor. He observed Lin Tra from a distance. One afternoon he saw it. She tried lifting her leg. Nothing moved, but her abdominal muscles contracted for a split second. Min's training kicked in. She wasn't completely paralyzed. Her nervous system was still firing signals, weak but present. The real problem wasn't just her spine, it was neurological disconnect, psychological trauma, complete lack of rehabilitation. Next day while cleaning, he spoke. "Miss Tra, you're not as hopeless as you think." She spun around, eyes like ice. "If top neurologists couldn't help me, what would a janitor know?" Min bowed. "I apologize, I overstepped." But he couldn't stop thinking about her. That evening, crying from the penthouse, the wheelchair stuck in the doorway, trapped 30 minutes, too proud to call anyone. Staff whispered, "She's impossible. Don't bother." Min went up anyway, quietly freed the wheel, didn't say a word. As he left, something caught his eye, her medical file. Open. Physical therapy, 3 sessions, then nothing. Doctor's notes in red. Patient uncooperative, severe depression progressing, antidepressants in the drawer. Seal unbroken. She wasn't just physically paralyzed. She was emotionally drowning, and everyone had abandoned her. Next morning changed everything. Lin Tra reached for water. Her hand shook. The glass fell, shattered across the floor. Min was outside, heard the crash, entered immediately, knelt down, started picking up glass. Silent. "I don't need your pity." Sharp, defensive. He looked up. No pity in his eyes, just certainty. "I'm not pitying you. I'm going to help you walk again." She stared, then laughed. Painful. Broken. "You're insane." "Maybe, but I've helped 11 people walk again. People worse off than you." The laughter stopped. Hands gripped armrests, knuckles white. "What did you say?" Min stood. "I was a physical rehabilitation specialist. Military. Soldiers who lost limbs, who'd been blown apart, who begged to die." "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Almost a whisper. "What I was doesn't matter. What you're going to become does." Tears formed. "I already tried. I failed. I can't fail again." Min knelt at eye level. "Then we'll fail together. But we don't quit." Something cracked inside her. Not hope, but a tiny opening. "Why would you do this?" Pain flashed across his face. "Military. Best friend named Tuan. Explosion paralyzed him neck down. Doctors wrote him off. I spent 18 months working with him daily. He walked again." "What happened?" "He killed himself 1 year later. PTSD destroyed him. He could walk, but his mind never healed." Her breath caught. That's when I understood. Walking isn't about the spine. It's about the heart. When your heart gives up, your legs follow. She wiped her eyes. "Nobody's ever spoken to me like this." "Because they're scared of truth. You're not broken. You're terrified. That's normal. Staying terrified is a choice." She laughed differently now. Quieter. Vulnerable. "You believe you can help?" "I know I can. Question is whether you want it." Long silence. Finally, "What would we do?" 5 minutes. Just 5. "If you feel nothing, I leave forever." She studied this janitor with tired eyes and rough hands, who saw past her wheelchair. "Fine, to prove you're wrong." "Deal." He pulled a pen from his pocket, knelt, rolled her pant leg up slightly, drew the pen along her calf. "Feel anything?" "No." Again, slower, more pressure. "Anything?" "Nothing." Third time, he watched with precision. Her calf twitched, half a centimeter. She didn't notice. He did. "Your nerves are responding." She shook her head. "Impossible. I lost 90% function." He locked eyes. 10% is enough to change everything." Her lip trembled. "I can't hope again. Hope hurts worse." Then don't hope. Just try. One moment at a time. He retrieved a standing frame from downstairs, positioned it. It would support her weight. I can't. Voice cracked. You can. Hold the bars. I'm here. She reached out, gripped the metal. Arms shook violently. Whole body trembling. Sweat beaded her forehead. Breathing rapid. Then her legs gave out. She collapsed into the wheelchair, sobbing. I can't do this. I can't fail again. Min knelt beside her. No empty comfort. Just truth. Good. That's progress. She looked up, tears streaming, confused. What? You collapsed because your muscles tried to engage. They're not dead. They're sleeping. We're waking them up. For the first time in 8 months, something shifted. Not hope. Not yet. But possibility. Small, fragile. Real. She whispered through tears. What if I can't? Then we try tomorrow, and the day after, until your body remembers. He placed his hand on her shoulder, steady, reassuring. I won't give up on you, even when you give up on yourself. Her hands covered her face, shoulders shaking with sobs. 8 months of pain breaking through. Min stayed, silent, present, not fixing, just witnessing. When she finally looked up, eyes red and swollen, she said something she hadn't said in months. Okay, tomorrow, we try again. He nodded. 7 a.m., bring your stubbornness, you'll need it. A tiny smile cracked through her tears, the first smile in 8 months. Min stood, started to leave. At the door, he paused. Miss Tra? Yes? You're stronger than you think. Your body knows it. Now your mind needs to catch up. The door closed softly behind him. Lin Tra sat in the golden light of sunset. The wheelchair felt different somehow. Not a prison anymore. Maybe a starting line. She looked at her legs, unmoving, unresponsive. But for the first time, she wondered, what if? Type rise if you want to see the training that changed everything. 7 a.m. sharp. Min arrived with a duffel bag. Lin Tra was awake, fear and hope fighting inside her. Ready? Min asked. She nodded. He laid out the plan. Muscle activation, nerve stimulation, balance work, mental conditioning. How long? However long it takes. Could be months. Her face fell. Months? You didn't lose your legs in a day. You won't get them back in one either. She breathed shakily. Where do we start? Here. He pointed to her chair. We teach your brain to remember walking. He knelt, placed hands on her knee. I'll move your leg. You focus. Feel every movement. Imagine you're doing it. Slowly he lifted her leg, bent the knee, extended it forward. She watched. Her leg moved, but she felt nothing. Close your eyes, Min said. Don't watch. Feel. She closed them. He repeated the motion. Imagine the muscle contracting, the foot pushing, the weight shifting. 10 minutes later, sweat covered her forehead. Mental strain, not physical. Enough for today. That's it? Disappointed. Your brain worked harder than it has in 8 months. Rest is training too. 2 weeks passed. Same routine. Every morning. 7 a.m. Passive movement. Nerve stimulation. Visualization. Building staff noticed. Rumors started. The janitor and the billionaire? Please. Min ignored it. So did she. Week 3. Something changed. During exercise, Min felt resistance. Tiny, but there. Did you just push? Her eyes went wide. Maybe? Again, he positioned her leg, waited, nothing. Try harder. Her face scrunched, sweat rolled down her temple. Then, the smallest push against his hand. They both felt it. Tears filled her eyes. Did I? Yes, Min's voice thick. Your brain sent a signal. Your leg received it. She covered her mouth, sobbing. It's so small. It's everything, Min said. The pathway isn't dead. It's blocked. We're clearing it. That night, she stared at her legs, tried again and again. Sometimes that push, sometimes nothing. But now she knew. Possible. Week 5. Standing frame again. We're trying this. Fear flashed. I collapsed last time. You'll probably collapse again. That's how we learn. He helped her grip bars, transferred weight forward. Arms shook, legs trembled. 5 seconds. 10. Collapse. But this time not crying, angry. Again. Min smiled. That's the spirit. 3 more tries, each collapse shorter. Week 7. She could stand 30 seconds. The building manager walked past, stopped dead. Is she standing? Min nodded. How? She never gave up. Week 8, hardest challenge. Today, shift your weight, Min said. Shifting? One leg to the other. Basic walking component. Terror. I'll fall. I'll catch you. She gripped 8 bars. He stood behind, hands at her waist. Transfer weight right. Just an inch. She tried, body tensed. Nothing. Breathe. Try again. Eyes closed, focused. Her body shifted. Barely. Maybe an inch. I did it. Voice breaking. Again. Other side. An hour later, she could shift 3 inches either way. That night alone, something unexpected. She tried moving her toe. It moved, just a twitch, but real. She called Min, voice shaking. My toe, I moved it. Silence, then, video call me, do it again. She positioned her phone, stared, concentrated. The toe moved, Min's face on screen. Pure joy. Voluntary movement, your brain's reconnecting. Tears, it's really happening. It's really happening. Week 9, devastating news. Her assistant arrived. Documents, emergency board meeting. They were voting to remove her as CEO. They say you're unfit to lead, the assistant said quietly. Can't return to normal function. Her hands clenched armrests. When? 2 weeks. After the assistant left, she broke down. Min found her sobbing by the window. They're taking everything. My company, my legacy. Min knelt. Then give them something they can't ignore. What? You walking into that boardroom. She laughed bitterly. I can barely stand a minute. Walk in 2 weeks? I want you to try. That's all anyone can ask. Impossible. So was moving your toe, but you did. She looked at him. This janitor who believed when no one else did. If I fail, then you fail standing, not sitting. Something fierce ignited. Okay, let's do it. 2 weeks. Brutal. 4 hours daily training. Muscle work. Balance. Nerve stimulation. Walking simulations. Kenny visited one afternoon. Brought a drawing. Her standing. Walking. Smiling. Dad says you're gonna walk soon. I believe him. He doesn't lie. She hugged him. Tears streaming. Thank you, Kenny. 12 days before. First assisted step. 1 step. Min holding most weight. Leg dragging. Shaking. But a step. 10 days. 3 steps. 7 days. 5 steps with walker. 3 days before disaster. Her leg gave out. She fell hard. Bruised hip badly. I can't do this. My body won't cooperate. Min's voice gentle but firm. Your body gave everything. Now we rest. Heal. Try again. We don't have time. Then we go with what you have. Even if it's 1 step, you show them you're fighting. She wiped tears, nodded. Night before the meeting, couldn't sleep. Min texted, it's not about perfection, it's about proof. Proof you haven't given up. She typed, thank you for everything, for seeing me. His reply, I never stopped seeing you. The world just forgot to look. Morning arrived. Lynn Traw put on her suit, did makeup, looked in the mirror. 8 months ago, top of the world. Then she fell. Today, she was climbing back. Min arrived, helped with walker, practiced once more, 5 shaky steps, that's all. It's enough, Min said, trust me. In the car, her hands trembled. What if I fall in front of everyone? Min looked steadily. Then I'll help you up, just like always. She squeezed his hand. I couldn't have done this without you. You did this yourself. I just reminded you how. The car pulled up. Photographers outside, press, employees, everyone expecting the wheelchair. The door opened. Lintra took a deep breath, reached for her walker. The lobby went silent. Lintra emerged from the car, walker in front, Min beside her. Cameras flashed like lightning. She took one step, then another. Slow, shaking, but moving forward. Employees froze. Whispers erupted. Is she walking? That's impossible. Who's that with her? Security rushed forward. Miss Tra, we have a wheelchair. I don't need it, she said firmly. The elevator ride felt eternal. Min stood beside her, silent support. You've got this, he whispered. She nodded, hands white-knuckled on the walker. The doors opened, 52nd floor, executive level. Her assistant waited outside the boardroom, face pale. They're all inside, waiting. Lintra looked at Min, fear in her eyes. He placed his hand on hers. You've already won. Everything after this is just proof. She breathed deep, straightened her spine, opened the doors. The assistant hesitated, then pushed them open. The boardroom, 12 board members, seated, confident, expecting an easy victory. They looked up, saw the wheelchair assistant entering empty-handed. Confusion crossed their faces. Then Lantra appeared in the doorway, standing, Walker supporting her. The room went dead silent. One board member stood, mouth open. Lynn? She didn't answer, just focused on walking. One step into the room, her right leg dragged slightly, left leg trembled. 2 steps, sweat formed on her forehead, arms shaking from gripping the walker. 3 steps, someone whispered, My God. 4 steps, her hips screamed in pain from the bruise. She bit her lip, kept going, 5 steps. She reached the head of the table, her seat. Min pulled out the chair. She gripped the table edge, slowly lowered herself down. The walker clattered slightly as she released it. She looked up, met their eyes. One by one saw them. Gentlemen, ladies, shall we begin? Nobody spoke. The chairman finally cleared his throat. Miss Tra, we weren't expecting. You weren't expecting me to fight, she finished. I know. She placed her hands flat on the table. Steady now. 8 months ago, I lost the use of my legs. You all sent flowers, cards, then silence. One board member looked away. You assumed I was finished, that I'd fade away quietly, sign whatever papers you put in front of me. Another shifted uncomfortably. But here's what you forgot. Her voice grew stronger. I didn't build this company by giving up when things got hard. She gestured to Min standing by the door. That man is a janitor in my building. At least, that's what his uniform says, but he's also a former military rehabilitation specialist. Murmurs around the table. When every doctor told me I'd never walk again, he saw something different. He saw 10% possibility, and he taught me that 10% is enough. She leaned forward. So here's my question. If I can go from completely paralyzed to walking into this room in 3 months, what do you think I can do with this company in the next year? Silence. I'm not asking for your pity. I'm not asking for special treatment. I'm asking for what I've always earned, the chance to lead. The chairman looked at the others, back to her. Miss Tra, the board was concerned about your ability to fulfill the demanding schedule. I'll work twice as hard as before, she interrupted. I've learned what real struggle is, what real strength means. This company needs a leader who understands that. One board member spoke up. The vote was supposed to be today. Then vote, Lintra said calmly, but vote on what I can do, not what I've lost. Long pause. The chairman looked around the table. Reading faces, finally he spoke. I move to table the removal vote indefinitely. Seconded, another voice said. All in favor? Hands rose one by one until all 12 were up. The chairman nodded. Motion passes. Miss Tra, welcome back. She closed her eyes briefly, breathed. When she opened them, tears glistened. Thank you. As the meeting adjourned, board members approached, shaking her hand, apologizing, congratulating. But her eyes found Min by the door. He smiled, gave a small nod. She mouthed two words, "Thank you." He mouthed back, "You did it." After the meeting, Lintra found Min on the rooftop terrace. He stood watching the city, sunset painting the sky gold. She approached with her walker, slowly, but walking. "You left before I could thank you." He turned, smiled softly. "You don't owe me thanks. I owe you everything." He shook his head. "I just reminded you what was already there. That was always yours." She reached the railing, set the walker aside, gripped the metal bar. They stood in silence, watching the city below. "That day you said you'd help me walk," she said quietly. "I laughed. I thought you were insane." "I know, but you were the only sane person in my life. Everyone else saw a broken woman. You saw someone worth fighting for." His eyes glistened. "Because I've been where you were. Someone helped me once. I was paying it forward." "What happens now?" "Now you keep walking, keep fighting." "And you?" "I go back to being a janitor. Kenny needs stability." "You're not just a janitor," she said firmly. "You never were." She reached into her jacket, pulled out an envelope. "Join my company, head of employee wellness. Help people struggling with disabilities, physical, mental, whatever they need." He stared at the envelope. "You don't have to. I'm doing it because you're the best person for the job. Because people need what you have. Hope. Real hope." He took it, opened it. Eyes widened. "The salary, it's what you're worth." Tears rolled down his face. "Kenny, I can finally give him everything." "Yes, you can." Kenny's voice rang out. "Dad!" The boy ran across the rooftop. Min caught him, lifted him high. "Guess what, buddy? We're going to be okay. Better than okay." Kenny hugged tight. "I knew it. I knew you'd fix everything." Lin Tra watched them, father and son. Both had saved her, one with skill, one with belief. She looked at her legs, still weak, still learning, but standing. Min set Kenny down, extended his hand to Lin Tra. "Partners?" She took his hand, shook firmly. "Partners?" As the sun set, three people stood together, a billionaire who learned to walk again, a janitor who became so much more, and a little boy who never stopped believing. Sometimes the person who saves you isn't the one with the degree on the wall. It's the one who sees you when everyone else looks away. The one who believes in your 10% when the world only sees your 90% loss. Healing doesn't always come from medicine or machines. Sometimes it comes from a single person saying, "I won't give up on you," and meaning it. Comment, hope, if you believe the smallest people in our lives can lift us to the greatest heights.